Pixar has done it again. Yes, they made a good movie. What I mean is they made me cry. Again. Onward is out, and it's pretty good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I actually think I liked it more than most people like it, actually. And it also made me cry, in case I wasn't clear about that. So, let's get to it. Onward is the latest film from Pixar Animation. And it's a movie about two brothers set in a fantasy world. Basically, it's bright, but for kids. Except it's good. So that's the big difference. And it's not caught up in a terrible race allegory. So, quite a few differences here. But anyways, Onward is the latest film from Pixar Animation and centers around two brothers, Ian and Barley Lightfoot, voiced by Tom Holland and Chris Pratt, respectively. And the movie takes place in a fantasy setting, yes, but it also showcases, well, okay, here's a fantasy setting, but what if that same fantasy world was consumed by urban decay and our consumerism? The thing is, the movie doesn't get too caught up on this detail. It also doesn't get too caught up on the fantasy aspect either, which I think is a good thing, because rather than being so caught up in the lore of this film, the movie can actually tell its story, which is actually a pretty effective story about brotherhood. The main plot centers around the two brothers trying to revive their dad, who has been dead for nearly a decade, for one day. However, despite this being the plot, there is a very weird element to this movie where the dad is kind of there. And when I say kind of, I mean his legs are there. And the reason this was kind of off-putting to me is because his legs are in the movie and it kind of makes for some fun visual gags, yes, but at the same time the legs constantly being in the film somehow feels both too much and unimportant at the same time, which is a really strange dynamic to have when the entire plot of the film centers around completing his body. So it was a weird thing. But the point is, Onward is mostly a good film. It has fantastic performances from some of the voice actors, especially Chris Pratt, who I believe was the standout in this movie. Absolutely fantastic as Barley Lightfoot. And Octavia Spencer as well. She was another standout as a manticore in the film. Absolutely hilarious. Again, this movie has some really interesting concepts and ideas, and it elaborates on them just enough. The movie doesn't get too bogged down in anything really, because it's focused on the central story and message of the film, which I think is a good thing. And in traditional Pixar fashion, it will make you cry. It has all that sentimental value. And it is very enjoyable for kids in the sense that this is unlike anything Pixar has ever done. This is a pure high fantasy adventure film. Very, very action-packed, unlike a lot of other Pixar films. This movie is truly unlike anything they've done before, and it's really enjoyable. So kids will be entertained throughout, but it also has an added layer of depth for parents and millennials and Gen Xers, as to be expected with Pixar, which probably accounted for most of my enjoyment in the movie. I did enjoy the adventure aspect, but it was the nuance to the film that actually made me appreciate it more, and the message of brotherly love, and in the absence of a father figure, sometimes a brother, a friend, any other family member can really fill that role and teach you those lessons that a father is expected to teach their son. Ian and Barley's mom is also a great character in this movie because she's not the broken down mom that's just, plagued by the death of her dead husband. She's a strong character in her own right, and the side plot involving the mom trying to track down her boys is actually highly entertaining, and at some points it is actually more engaging than the main plot. So that's nice to see, and her interactions with the Manticore, voiced by Octavia Spencer, they're pretty great, to be honest. The mother is voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and, you know, again, she is a pretty good character in her own right, and those are the main players of the movie. There are obviously other stars, as to be expected in a movie like this, but Chris Pratt definitely steals the show as the impulsive and rash older brother who acts purely on instinct and sort of has his own unique skill set, while Tom Holland's character is the more timid and shy and kind of unsure of himself, but he is obviously the more intelligent of the two. He is the more traditionally competent character. However, as the two progress through their journey, they kind of learn to trust in one another, and their bond strengthens, and they learn that they are each good at their own thing, which I think is a good message. Not everybody is skilled or intelligent in the same way. Intelligence is not confined to one specific meaning. Just because somebody is good at taking a test doesn't mean they're more intelligent than somebody who has test anxiety. That's kind of a bad analogy, but you know what? That's kind of what the movie is going for here with the dynamic between the two brothers here, and I think it does it really effectively. And look, the thing is here, Pixar is so good with the emotional beats, and they all land in this movie, especially the twist at the end, which is absolutely heart-wrenching. Now, as to be expected with the Pixar film, the animation is absolutely stunning. Ever since Incredibles 2, I'm convinced that this studio is just showing off how good they are at animating films. Plain and simple, Pixar is showing off Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4, and now Onward. Some of the things that they do with this movie is just absolutely breathtaking for animation. The details, the cinematography, it's beautiful. It is truly a sight to behold. Pixar is on top of their game with the visual effects. Now, is this one of Pixar's best movies? No, it's not up there with Incredibles or Toy Story 2, but I think it's definitely a good movie. It's definitely a good Pixar film. It's definitely better than something like Cars or Finding Dory. So is it worth your time? It's absolutely worth your time. I enjoyed Onward, and I would recommend it to all. It makes for a good time at the movies. It's a good family watch, especially if you have siblings. And you know what? Take your parents as well, because as I said, there is a great side plot with the mom there, and there's also some interesting themes of learning to accept a new family member when you may not be ready to. So overall, it is a good movie. It has a lot of interesting ideas, and while it doesn't fully flesh all of them out, I think it elaborates on them just enough to make the movie interesting and make it stand apart in the Pixar pantheon. Ultimately, this is not Pixar's best, but it's still highly enjoyable and well worth your time. I'm going to recommend Onward to everybody. Thank you for watching, and may your heart be your guiding key. Good night.